Welcome to The Playful Domme, The Poly Wife, and The Virgin podcast, where we share our most intimate stories, experiences, and details of our love lives, our intimacy lives, our play lives, and giving you the opportunity to gaze in and get a glimpse of what could be possible in your life as well. As we share our stories, our adventures, we weave in tips, tricks, and techniques to help build your confidence, boost your courage, and give you the opportunity to ask for what you want in your life. Welcome to the podcast. Oh, and just a couple of quick thoughts before we get started. One, we are just everyday people. We are not professionals, licensed therapists, anything like that. This is for edutainment purposes only. This is not medical advice or legal advice, financial advice, nothing like that. Listen at your own discretion. And this is for mature audiences. We're going into deep subjects and sharing deeply about intimacy and all the things about that. So just notice who you're around and let's go. So I'm feeling especially feisty this morning, so I put my cat suit on. My cat suit, get my floggers, you know. Whenever I feel like I need to step back into my power, on goes the cat suit, and it's just such a shift. So I'm super grateful. So grateful.
That's awesome.
It really is. Oh, so refreshing. Instead of holding it back and down, right? Just put it on and be in the moment, be in the power.
In that same vein, I was coming home from my lover's house this morning, and we were really fast, so I didn't quite finish. And so I thought of Jessica. I pulled my vibrator out and sat on my vibrator on the way home. I'm driving. I'm like, oh, fantastic.
Oh gosh.
So one of the best memories I have with Lisa and in life in general involving food is it was Lisa and I one day, and there was this period of time where once a month I would crave meat and men. Like I would just like, and it was so funny because I was talking to a dear friend of mine. It happened over Labor Day weekend, and I first remember like putting blackberries in my mouth and like feeling all the beautiful bumps in it, and just I got like super turned on. And then I'm talking to one of my dear friends I've known for years, and I'm like, so what are you doing this Labor Day weekend? He's like, I might chop down a tree. I'm like, ooh. He's like, yeah, and drink some scotch on the rocks. I'm like, yes. Like, in his like plaid shirt, and I was like, oh, like I want like a man. And then there was a guy that I was kind of playing with at the time, and I was like, if you were to walk through the door right now, I would climb you like a fucking tree. Like I was like such crazy desire. And then I wanted like I wanted meat. Like I just like needed meat. It was so interesting. I think that's like my ovulation day, but it was like this one day for a few months in a row that just like I just needed it. I wanted it. I craved it. So Lisa, being the fantastic, beautiful, wonderful friend and chef that she is, she made this rack of lamb. So she made this rack of lamb and like these really yummy green beans that were super juicy. Like everything was just like, you could eat it with your fingers, and it was super sensual. And so we're sitting at the table it's just the two of us for lunch. And I was like, what would make this even better, like even sexier? And she's like, wow. I'm like, let's put on some sexy music. She's like, oh, okay, all right. So we had some sexy music on, and then I was like, what would make this even better? She's like, what? I was like, vibrators. So like we went out and we grabbed vibrators, and then we came back and we like sat on our vibrators listening to sexy music as we're eating food. And it's just the two of us, and we're just a ladies lunch, no big deal. But it was such a big deal because it was like, how often, and we went on a whole tangent from this thing, but it was, how many times do women, like they do those things because like like they want to turn a guy on, or like the guy's like, you know, what would really turn me on as we're at this restaurant is if you like took off your panties and like handed them to me, or whatever it was, or like if you put this vibrator inside and da da da. So for us, they have like no men on the table, has nothing to fuck to do with them. It's just purely for our joy and delight and pleasure. Was so epic. It was one of the best days, like I've, you know, memories I've ever had. So
actually, I still have a video of you dancing with your vibrator.
Despacito. Yeah.
And we can share that in the after hours version of the podcast.
Oh my God. Not awkward at all. Not awkward at all. Yeah. Super fun.
Oh my God. Yeah, that was a great meal. It was memorable in so many ways. And, you know, I took a lot of lessons from that too. And I think that started my journey in experiencing sex for my pleasure.
Yeah.
It gives me pleasure. I have a friend who, I don't remember who it was. I know exactly who it was. Okay, so this new girlfriend of mine, she's in my poly group, and she was saying that she was, you know, her boyfriend was performing oral sex on her, and she was like, she just grabbed his head and like used his nose to really, you know, get deep in there, and he was just moaning with delight, and she was really enjoying it, and it was fantastic. And I was like, oh, how horrible, I could never do that. And I have met a man who absolutely 100% loves eating pussy. I mean, that's just brings
his thing. Yeah.
His thing. And, you know, I think a lot of women, I will just claim it for myself, feel awkward having a man's head smelling, you know, awful down there. And it's just embarrassing. I mean, we've been body shamed. We shame ourselves. Yeah, sure. Oh, it smells, or it's wet and it's gross. Yeah. It's, you know, what's this thing? All stuff, right? And then to find a man, and I have been with men who had not good reactions to being with my pussy, because they don't love eating pussy. It's not my pussy, but I absorbed the feelings of they weren't loving it, right? And this guy, I'm telling you, he enjoys it. And I grabbed his head and rubbed my pussy all over his face. And I wasn't particularly feeling, you know, motivated to do it, but he loves it so much that I lost the fear of shame. Yeah. Decided I'm gonna see what that feels like. He was just so excited. He was so happy. He's just humming along down there, and sucking and licking, and oh my God, it was fantastic. And one of the things, so this journey of seeking, I mean, okay, so I'm an older woman who has not sought pleasure from sex, only service from sex. So this is just eye-opening and really fantastic. And, you know, I don't care that I'm 57 and getting here for the first time now, and other women are getting it at 35, or, you know, plenty of women that I know who are in their 30s and 40s know this already, right? They've been enjoying it for years already. But it's new to me. And now I feel like I'm going to take this message out to the women who are that was the whole reason for me wanting to do the podcast in the first place, was just, I feel like I represent a demographic of women who don't realize that they can be selfish about their pleasure and celebrated for it by the men or partners that they're with. Wouldn't you agree, Jess?
Yeah, and
yes, and yes, right?
Right. And I mean, I haven't done that yet. I haven't grabbed a guy, like the guy I'm seeing, he's like, do you like to sit on faces? And I'm like, you know, and so there's this piece of like owning, like, yes, this is my pussy, and yeah, it fuck yeah, it brings like a lot into this world of manifestation and all the crazy things. It's like, you want shit to change fast in your life, feed her. She needs to be really, really well nourished. And the more that you ask for what you want, I'm going through that right now. I'm going through a really challenging moment in myself of not asking for what I want and feeling the repercussions of that, you know, of like, okay, like I've had sex several times. I've only orgasmed a few out of those times. This is like starting to create an imbalance, which is like an imbalance in the ecosystem of my pussy power womb, who's like, wait a minute, what the fuck, you know, and that's on me. That's on me to like own. I'm not putting it on anybody else, but you know, it's kind of like, okay, how can I do this differently? And like owning how I feel about it. So, so Lisa, I have to say, I don't think that it is a regular thing for women to own their pussy and rub men's faces. And I think men are craving that. I think they would love it if, you know, women owned it more and said like, yeah, bitch, take it. Me on, and I want it, you know, and because men really want you turned on, and I think that's one of the most important things. Is what gets men off is what's going to get, you know, what gets you off is going to be what gets them off ultimately. It's about shifting the dynamic though in the mindset, you know, going from like our place of pleasing to being a place of like owning our pleasure. So
this is Ella the Virgin, and I'm smiling from ear to ear because, you know, Jess and Lisa can see me. So again, I'm not a part of this world. I know Jess for many, many years. I love Lisa and her stories, and so I've come along as one to like have my eyes opened, I think. Am I super conservative? No, but again, I don't think I've ever found the right partner. So just a little background for people that are listening, but Lisa, you made me smile. I mean, you can hear me. I'm just laughing, grinning from ear to ear. So a little bit about me is I've been on a hiatus for almost 2 years now. Prior, and again, no dating, right? Just by myself, healing some past wounds and stuff. Anyway, so I met this gentleman, and I can't even believe I'm sharing this, but I met this gentleman. He's been around for a few years, and like last 6 months, he's kind of been around a little bit more, but platonic, right? Well, we ended up going away for a weekend. I'm like, I got this, right? No problem. You know, I got my power. And so the first night was great. Again, stayed in his space. You know, I stayed in mine. So it worked okay. Anyway, he kissed me the second night. Well, number one, he's a great hugger and a great kisser. And I got to tell you what, I'm like, oh man, here we go. Just another one, right? So we go into like, oh shit, here we go. Anyway, it was not like that. So Lisa, as you were saying about, he like went down, and I'm like, oh shit, now you guys, I've been on a hiatus for 2 years now. So there's some like pent up energy here. And I'm like, I'm like, uh-oh, okay, someone's gonna get hurt here, right? I grabbed his head. I'm like, you know, come on, if you're gonna come on. So just fantastic. So I appreciate that. And I was in my power, right? I'm like, forget it. If I'm gonna sleep with somebody, because again, I'm much, you know, again, it's gonna be good. And man, been great. This guy's unbelievable. So anyway, so I appreciate that. And I was in my power.
Yay.
But forget it. Yeah, I'm not going to I just don't sleep with people. So I'm like, no. So anyway, but super good. Great lover. Ooh, Lord have mercy. We'll probably hear a few more stories.
I think you bring up a really good point. Mm-hmm. Just in terms of the podcast, is that our experiences are varied, but they aren't different.
They're not.
Even though Jess is a playful Dom, even though I'm poly and you're monogamous, right? And play more in a vanilla style of play, it doesn't mean that all of us don't still feel that sense of, oh my God, am I going to fart when I orgasm? Or am I... right? What's going to happen down there if I really let go, right? It's like, oh my God.
So good, because like you said, it's all...
What was that?
It's all the same. We're all thinking the same thing.
So I just have to worry about it with multiple guys, and you have to worry about it with one. But you know, those thoughts still go through our mind.
And in my head, I'm like, let's just get it over with. All right, babe, here's what's gonna happen. You're gonna go down on me. I'm gonna fart on you. It's gonna be okay. Like, let's just do it. Like, let's just get this out of the way, because it's just really staying in my head. And I'd rather just move through this simulation
over
and
with.
get to the other side, right? You're gonna you're gonna Dutch oven me, I'm sure, at some point. So let's just like get it done.
There's a term for it, Dutch oven?
Yeah, a Dutch oven is when if I remember correctly, it's when you're going down on a guy and he pulls the sheets over you and he farts.
Oh yes.
Okay, that hasn't happened.
Oh, so funny. So on our last podcast, and maybe you guys ladies can describe this a little bit better, but we were talking about, women taking their power. And there's been a few great nuggets that you've said, the last few conversations that we've had about asking for what you want and being okay getting what you want. Mm-hmm. And again, I had another experience, and it's kind of this joke, right? Again, my current partner is a great lover. Did I say great? Great lover. So there's this joke that I'm like always on my back, right? And which is not normally me. And so we were joking about it. I'm like, did you ever think that maybe this is where I want to be and I'm not done yet, right? I'm not done yet. And like you said, it's about the pleasure. So he's super excited as well. And of course I am. So I'm like, no, I'm not done. I'm just going to stay here for a few more hours or days. So anyway, I want to say thank you for that, because I think that's very important. And maybe we can touch on that again about being, asking for what we want. So,
well, I can say, because it was brought up in my mind when Jess was talking about the vibrators, is that my use of vibrators was always private, right? My husband, and I would make love, and then he'd get up, go take a shower, whatever, and I'd quickly finish off, right? And it was not wanting to shame him for not having had an orgasm during sex, right? It's not that I didn't enjoy the sex. It's just it didn't last long enough for me to go where I needed to go, or I didn't get into my head or whatever. And then once we became poly and I started having more experiences, guys actually liked playing with vibrators. And I was like, oh, really? Well, that's an interesting thought. So then we just made the vibrator part of the play. And then there were guys who just wanted to watch me masturbate with a vibrator.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? That's of interest to you? Oh yeah, that's so hot. That's fantastic. So I have embraced what I want or even need in a moment. And so, this particular guy promised me that I wouldn't need a vibrator. And I can tell you that this is my first experience with multiple orgasms, like really feeling a sense of release when I'm being pleasured. And I probably came 6 times this morning. I didn't climax, but I literally came 6 times, and I was just like flying off the ceiling. I was so excited about it. Mm-hmm. And we were out of time. So had we had the day, I'm certain that vibrator would not have been necessary, or he would have enjoyed playing with it with me. Right. And to have everything I want is a new experience for me. It's something I've only enjoyed recognizing and acknowledging without guilt for being so lucky to have everything that I want, right? I think when we get suspicious, when's the other shoe going to drop?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, exactly.
How is this going to turn up shitty, right? What if it doesn't? What if we just enjoy this moment just for that reason?
Yeah, that's very, very well said. Mm-hmm.
I want to applaud Lisa for expanding out and being so playful and adventurous with men or with partners, to have sex with. I think that there's a lot of women who could say that they've had multiple partners, but they haven't gotten beyond stage 1 of missionary position, or maybe from behind, or maybe on all fours. But in terms of shifting out of a position place and into a play place of playfulness, of exploration, of what can make this even more amazing, and how to learn this lover. And I think that there's a lot of fear, and Lisa, I'd love for you to touch on, when people, anybody is entering into a space where they're having intimacy of some level with new people or different people, what's a good conversation to have, that you've had with, I look to you because you have multiple boyfriends right now. So if there are women out there who are like interested and want to know, and like maybe they're scared, like, to me, if I can hear that you wouldn't have had this exploration really to the depths and the vastness, and especially when there isn't so much attached to it, as if you were trying to move through all of those places with your husband, because you weren't getting there.
Mm-hmm.
So I know there's a few pieces in there, but.
Well, I think probably the thing people find most interesting when I talk to them about my dating is that they are floored by the frank conversation I'm willing to have within the first hour of meeting somebody. So if we role played a little bit and it's like, hey, Jess, nice to meet you. Wow, I'm really excited to sort of explore this. I just want to be, kind of clear. I like to kind of make sure that we're a good match. Maybe I'm doing this in text, actually, not even in a first meeting. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Are you married, single, open, or ethically non-monogamous or polyamorous? And then I say, I've been married for 34 years. I'm polyamorous. I'm seeking somebody for an ongoing relationship 2 to 3 times a week. I have a boyfriend I have a couple of boyfriends in different cities. I don't see them very often, and I'm looking for somebody local. And if that all works for you, then let's have the next part of the conversation. And then he will say, I'm married, I'm single, I'm ethically non-monogamous, or I'm polyamorous. And if he's married and not open, then I say, oh my gosh, I'm really grateful that you were honest about that. I really appreciate it. It doesn't work for me, so good luck. And if he says that I'm married and I'm open and I have a lover here and I have a lover there, I just did this with a gentleman last week, and he's polyamorous. He he plays with a couple of different couples, and these are ongoing relationships. He's been with one woman 1.5 years. And I just entered into another relationship with a man who's with a woman for 3 years, and she's married to another man who has a girlfriend. And so I'm being added to their little group, but only dating him. So when we're talking, we're saying, so I'm looking for, in this particular case, I'm not looking for an emotional connection because I have that with my boyfriend out of town. I'm looking for regular sex, and he wants sex twice a week. So I'm like, that's perfect. So we've already negotiated what we want. And now it's just a matter of, when we kiss, do we have chemistry? So when I meet him for the first time, I hug him and I kiss him sensually. And if there are fireworks, then we sit down, we have a cup of coffee, because every step is leading us towards the playground that we know we want to get to. We've already laid that out. And so, as it happens, the one guy who plays with a few couples, he just wants somebody to socialize with. So we went out to lunch. We spent 4 hours talking at lunch. We went out to dinner. We spent 8 hours talking at dinner, because we both are craving conversations, and we haven't found partners who meet our standards for conversations. If we have sex, that'll probably be fantastic, because we've already connected on a level that I didn't know existed. It's called demisexual. It's that you connect emotionally and intellectually with a person, and that's the most important thing. And I realize it is really important for me. I've got to be able to have a conversation with somebody, and so he's my conversationalist. So but all of it is now I've had these fantastic conversations with this guy. I really enjoy being in his presence. I can look at him for hours and be completely satisfied. And tomorrow we have our first date, where we're getting a hotel room and we're going to have sex. And oh my God. So I'm going into this date with the same nerves I would have if I didn't know anything about him. But now I'm actually really invested in him because I already like being with him. I want the sex to be freaking hot. So we're discussing what's going to happen in the bedroom and what we're comfortable with and not comfortable with the first time we're together. And it's a pretty detailed conversation. So it's like, do we have oral sex? Do we have intercourse? Are we using condoms? All of that is discussed even before we get to the hotel room. And I think, thank God, that texting is so popular now because it's
available
to ask those questions and have those conversations without feeling super shy in the middle of it. So that, I think, has been the most surprising and shocking thing that I tell people, that they come away from the conversation saying, oh my gosh, I could never do that. It's just because we have not learned that we can, and that it's welcome. I think the guys are really, really happy to have clear boundaries set and to know what is okay and what's not. Otherwise, they're really poking around in the dark. They don't know really what you like. And if I have a hard time telling them and I don't have a good experience, I have to take ownership of that and not expect them to actually know what they are doing, which is what I have done up until now. You know, my expectation is, oh, he's the man. He should know how to pleasure a woman. And he may know how to pleasure a woman, but he may not know how to pleasure me. So
that's a great point right there, Lisa. I'm sure it looks like Jess is going to speak on that. That is a great point.
Yeah, it's contrast. So what I wanted to like suggest, and something that's been so important in my life, is contrast. And so we have people who say, oh, I could never do that, and I would never do that, or how could that even? And I get that because I've lived most of my life like that. And I remember my first day of Dom training, and I had a list of things I will not do. And by the end of the day, I had done all of them but one. And it wasn't like, there was no force. It wasn't against my will. It was none of that. It was this encouraging space held by somebody who knew what she was doing. She'd been doing it for a decade. So she knew all the ins and outs. She was going to guide and help lead and encourage and be enthusiastic. And, you know, she did a really wonderful job. And so I get it that like where we are in the current state of our being and what our understanding is, we're like, no, there's no way that I could ever do X, Y, Z thing, you know, and yet there's so much on the other side of that. Like if we're willing to go to somebody who is a guide or someone and have a template like Lisa's describing, setting ourselves up for a whole new world of exploration, opportunity, that can just open up our minds and see what's possible. But until we do it, we have no bearing. So I love the contrast, especially because like I learned the other day. So there was a day that Lisa and I were both gushing. Oh my gosh. Like, you know, she was gushing that she had the best sex of her life. Right?
Oh, get out of here.
Go ahead, Lisa.
Unmute yourself, Lisa.
It was this guy because I was finally with a man. Okay, so I love giving blowjobs, and I just play with my mouth on a cock for an hour. It just turns me on. It makes me happy. I'm doing it for my own pleasure. I think we talked about that last time. And I have never been with a man who enjoys a pussy as much as I enjoy a cock. He does. And so I usually, when a man is giving me oral, start to feel like, gosh, he must be getting tired down there. And I'm still not, you know, I'm not getting quite where I need to get. And why don't I just, you know, bring him back up here and we'll, you know, be happy, right?
Yes.
What did I just say? I'm worried about his experience. I'm worried about he's tired and worn out. And I'm like, well, maybe, you know, if I can, he's excited, he's ready, he's hard. Let's bring him back up here so he can get off. What about me? This is all my doing. If I encourage him to come up and actually have intercourse with me, how does he know that I'm not ready yet? So
Lisa, you have the most incredible way of putting this experience into words. Unbelievable. Because again, I'm going to say one more time, I think we're all thinking this, right? We've all done this. Oh, come on up, right? Let's finish, right? This is getting awkward, right? Or whatever.
for you because
Yes.
you've been so
Yes.
generous, spend some time in that, smelly box down there. And instead, I have a stable of men who adore my pussy, who can't wait to get more of it, who want to be in it and lick it and fuck it.
Yes.
They want it, right? Why am I the one trying to rush it all along? And so I'm
so
done.
profound.
I had the best sex of my life because I allowed myself the gift of receiving what it was my partner wanted to provide or enjoy for himself without putting my baggage on him.
And that's exactly as our joke was, me being on my back. It's the same thing. It was about me, and you guys have helped me with this for sure. I wasn't done. I'm not going to hurry it. I'm not done. And again, he was, super excited as well. So it worked out great. So keep talking. I love this.
So what did he say to me all along? He says, you are the most fun woman to give pleasure to because you are so expressive. I mean, honestly, there isn't any attention that he's giving me where I'm not gasping, giggling, or enjoying it to the fullest. He knows at every moment that I am digging it, right?
Yeah.
And I have been with men when I'm giving them oral, I get the silent treatment and I'm like, are you enjoying this? Like, and he's moaning and he's, oh my God. Oh God, wow.
Oh man.
I want some enthusiasm. I want to be cheered up. So I'm happy to cheer him on. And he's not the only lover. I'm a giggler. I laugh when I'm having fun in bed. And so I like uncontrollably. And I have to say that I do warn the men up front that I'm laughing because it's a style of orgasm and release for me, and that I'm not laughing at them. Do not feel intimidated because I am laughing. And now these men are chasing the giggle, right? They're orgasm. They're not looking for a climax. They're looking to see that I'm enjoying myself. And I am happy to let them try and to reward them for their efforts with my unbridled laughter, which sometimes makes me end up farting, which is horrifying. But it happens.
Another release. It's just another orgasm.
Another release. And I told my husband that, and I was like, I farted during oral sex. And he goes, I would take it as a compliment personally. Your muscles are so out of control that you just have to let it go. And yeah, I don't have a problem with that. And I'm like, okay, thank you for that. I mean, to have loving and considerate men in my life, I'm luckier than ever.
Oh, you ladies are the best. Oh my goodness. I could do this type of conversation like this every morning. What a way to start.
What a way to start. Oh my God. Yeah. So something that I want to help with women in terms of like shifting themselves out, and mostly because I'm in the moment right now. So sometimes when we're in the moment, that's when we can really point things out. So if you're having like a little bit of a tough time, especially maybe some sexual frustration, or maybe you're not feeling sexy, or not feeling like in your power, some of the things I do immediately, like I allow myself to feel it so we can stay in it, so wallowing is an option. And I've done that, and I've also, what I'm noticing is that it's like listening to the body and like getting it into its state of pleasure again and as quickly as possible. So for me, it's putting on my cat suit, getting ready to put my floggers and you put them to good use around my body. I'm going to, as soon as we're done with the call, I'm going to put on a couple of songs I know that's going to really help shift the energy in my body. And so it's interesting because it's like oftentimes when we don't feel the sexiest, that's actually the time to be the sexiest. That is the time to step into your lingerie. That is the time to make yourself a nice bath. That is the time for you to like slow dance with yourself in the mirror in lingerie. That is the time to like have a glass of wine or whatever it is. It's in those very, very moments where you feel the least desirous or desired, like that is the time to step into it and flip the bitch as quickly as you can. So that's kind of where I am in the moment, because I recognized on the day that we were gushing, I had done so Lisa had the best sex of her life, and then like I had seen a client and he was like so hot, and I like, but not, I mean, attractive, but there was something so energetically magnetic about him. And we had FaceTime just before I was going to give him a bodywork session, and then I saw him, and like even like the very night before, I was like, I will never have sex with a client. It will never happen. And then it's like, oh, really, Jess? Is that really what's going to happen? So then the next day I'm seeing the hottest man ever, and I'm giving him a massage, and I was like, I don't want to have sex with this man so badly. And like being in that state of like this huge turn on, and then like in him like navigating it really, really well. And he had expressed desire as well in a different context. You know, he wanted to take me out on a date, and I'm like, isn't that so nice? You know, but there was like these moments that was super charged, and I was in a fucking afterglow that lasted hours. And it was like the day before I'm about to fly out to visit this man that I love, and we have like an open relationship, and then like I arrive and I don't have that same charged feeling. So then it's like going back to the contrast, you know, of like, okay, like how does this feel now? Okay, like what am I seeing? What am I learning in myself? Okay, what was it about this guy that had me so activated and alive and like excited and switched on and turned on, and like, and in that moment when I was so turned on by him, I was like, not by like through him, with him, right? Because it's in ourselves, but I was like, oh, this is what it is to be in my turn on again. Oh yeah, this is what it is to feel this alive and juicy and exciting. Oh right, I had forgotten about that. So I was really, really excited about that. And I was like, whew, man, that was a close one. I almost had sex with this guy. Ay. And then like I'm flying the next day to see the man that I love very much. And then I get there, and like it's a different kind of reaction in my body, which was really, really interesting to pay attention to and notice. So we don't have to make ourselves bad and wrong. And I guess I'm just like, I'm sharing where I am in the moment, because I know that there's women that, you know, some days we can't keep our hands off of our partner, and then other days we can't even be in the same room as them, and other days we can't even be in the same country, you know, and just like kind of being in that space of navigating in ourselves, and rather than making ourselves bad and wrong or our partners bad and wrong, to like just notice what's going on and having the contrast. And I also got how important it is, like Lisa talks about, because I feel like, so I'm speaking, this is kind of like a monologue, I guess, right now, but there's this phase that happens. So if you think about, our pussies are asleep, like sleeping beauties, right? And then they get this kiss. There's some kiss that brings them back to life. And then when they are alive, they are fucking switched on. They want it all a lot. And so there goes into this phase, and they talked about it in One Taste, where women just wanted to have sex all the time because they wanted to get fed, because it was suddenly our pussy that's been a sleeping beauty is awake and is ravenous and needs to be fed a lot. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, what partner can fulfill those kinds of sexual needs of my body? It's like, it's like her, like she's like, feed me now, you know? So it's interesting that Lisa has this stable of men that she can have and be like, you know, I'm feeling like a good, all right, oh, I'll reach out to this guy, you know, like, I remember that guy, you know, and for me, as I'm thinking about visiting her in Florida, I'm like, I've got a young buck who was fantastic, and I will definitely reach out to him, you know? So it's like, can we again like own our sexual desires, and also like our pussies, and having her needs met, because she really does run the show, and it can be super magical.
I think it's really important to also note, I had a different date on Sunday with another man, and he's Brazilian, and we were talking. He's he's a swinger, right? So he is a single guy. He goes to swingers parties and he's the bull at the parties. And he wanted to go to a party, and I had met him for coffee because I was interviewing potential partners. And he went with me to the party, but not with me, right? So I was just his couple because they weren't allowing single men at the party. And he went off and he played with a couple of people, and it was really fantastic. We were talking on Sunday, and I was saying that, I said, what happens I said, I'm really nervous about meeting you because I don't know what to expect or what's going to happen. I'm not a swinger. I don't know how to just sort of have sex with a person without long conversations and all of this stuff. And I said, but I bet you it's different in Brazil, right? Like if I accepted a date from you, it would sort of just be assumed that you were going to have dinner, get a hotel, have sex, and that would be the encounter. And it wouldn't be, are we going to be in a relationship? It's about having the fun and the sensuous experience. And it's completely acceptable, and nobody's shamed for having multiple partners or everybody knows that people are dating in this way. He says, yes, that's exactly what it's like. And I know from cousins of mine in Denmark that the United States is very puritanical in its view on sex, view of monogamy and marriage. The Italians and French are notorious for having lovers, for having mistresses. It isn't unacceptable. It's not looked down upon. A woman knows that she has a man who might work out in an office, and that he will probably have a mistress set up in an apartment someplace else. But he provides for her. He provides for her what it is that their contract is agreeing to, kids, raising the kids together, or whatever it is. And they have less divorce in those countries because both the men and the women are free to play with other people if they choose to. Maybe not every single person, but it's more commonly accepted. And so I feel like we're really slow as American women and late to the party in terms of owning our desire and our sexuality and our enjoyment of it. And we criticize women when they wear a dress that might be too short or too tight or whatever. But what if that too tight dress really turns her on? Or if she's wearing it because it really turns her man on? I totally get how my judgment was so inappropriate. And I shouldn't be a judgmental person anyway, but I was like, should I tell her that her underwear is showing? Well, fuck no. Right now, I might be the girl with the underwear showing because my man likes to see my thong, outlined on my tight jeans, right? So I'm choosing to enjoy it and choosing to encourage it in others because I feel like we've repressed ourselves. And once you can't unknow. Once I've experienced the freedom of this kind of sexual enjoyment, I'm not settling for anything less, ever, because there's going to be somebody out there who will want to be with me and please me, always. We think we have to hold on to these men, but honestly, we don't. We are so lucky. The guys have so much trouble meeting women. They are desperate. They will do anything. Many of them will. And I have partners with whom I have really no sexual contact at all. So, and they still get something, and I still get something from the relationship. And when I don't want to be in the relationship anymore, we just stop and we part, and there isn't drama around it. This new man that I'm with, his girlfriend is, they're dealing with jealousy issues, him with her boyfriends and her with me. And I was just like, listen, you can just tell her if you guys are uncomfortable, I'll walk away. I'm totally fine with that. I don't want to. I really enjoy you. This is fun. But if it's going to create problems, I'm not here for that. I'll find somebody else. It'll suck, but I will. And he just appreciates that because I'm not fighting for him. It's not that I wouldn't, it's that it's inappropriate for me to. They're in an established relationship. I'm the new girl on the block. I can move on if they need me to. And I think that's also kind of hard because we tend to become attached to the outcome and what we want it to be. And I've learned to let that go, which has helped me have better experiences.
What's percolating in your mind, Ella?
Well, I was just, I mean, again, I so enjoy these stories, right? These real life stories. And it's just, it seems so much more healthy, again, just to have an open, honest, authentic conversation. If this is causing problems, I'm happy to step away.
Right.
Just so refreshing. So refreshing. So I love it. I smiling the whole time.
Yeah, there's, I think we can up level the kind of games that we play. So in the past, maybe we've played mind games. In the past, maybe we've played manipulation games. In the past, we were taught, I think, for women, especially in the United States, that and maybe as a collective, manipulation is one of our greatest tools in getting what we want. And we're entering into a phase. And why was that? Well, we didn't have the physical strength to go up against a man. And we sure as shit didn't have the same rights and privilege as them in terms of our voice and what mattered and how they carried. So women found other ways to get their needs met and getting their desires met. It just was in a more trickster, mysticky way of, manipulation. And there's nothing wrong with manipulation. I think we've also deemed it a negative thing. There's a negative connotation in manipulation. But we manipulate materials and make them into something new, so there's all these different ways of viewing manipulation. But to Lisa's point, and I think too in my life as well, is that the more that we're able to honor our truth and what we desire and what we want, or what we're willing to walk away from, and no hard feelings. Like, I'm not doing this as like a tactic for you to stay with me. I'm not saying I'm going to walk away so that you are going to now jump through hoops to get me safe. I'm not here to play that game. I am here to say, like, you're happy, you're good, awesome. I want that for you. I am not here to be a home wrecker. That is not my intention. Like, my intention is to be part of the party, but if it's not going to work, that's fine. Like, I will move forward. And there's something about continuing to put people in a state of sovereignty, because we get into these loops of, if they know this thing about me, then it's over. They're not going to want to be with me. Well, guess what? That thing is going to fucking come out at some point. Yeah. It just is. And the more that you put pressure under yourself of keeping it hidden, living in secrecy, all of that stuff. I've lived it. I've done it. I was with a couple of married men, and I wish that they had an open relationship, because that would have changed the whole dynamic of the whole fucking thing. It would have changed the dynamic in their partnership. It would have changed the dynamic in how I showed up. It would have changed the dynamic in how I could speak to people about it. Instead of being the other woman that was like hidden, and I chose it, I own it, and it was super, super painful. So we're in this whole totally new age, and I think there's just a new game that we can play, and the game is asking for what you want and being really honest with it, and letting others be honest with it too. And like Lisa said, not getting attached to like, oh my God, this is the guy. I've done that at least a dozen times, and it really set me up for a tremendous amount of pain and grief and sadness and beauty and all the things. But to Lisa's point about, the US is more repressed. We're more repressed sexually, yet we have incredible deviance, incredible things that are happening behind the scenes that are harming innocence. They're harming the innocence of play, innocence of sexuality, but also the innocence of children and others, because we've kept things so under wraps. So I applaud this new age of asking for what you want and trying it. And if you get no, well, guess what? This says more about them than it does about you.
Yeah, there was a man who wanted to meet me at this party, and he's a cross-dresser, and he wants to be dressed as a woman and doing shibari, which is the art of rope tying and suspension. And I'm not a rigger, I'm a bunny, which which means that I get tied versus doing the tying. But I wanted to introduce him to a couple of my friends, men and women, who both are riggers. And in his about me was that he wanted to be with somebody who wouldn't make him feel ashamed for the desires that he had. And I'm not turned on by a crossdresser, but I want that person to experience a safe place to play. Right. So I think, yeah, there's that freedom of expressing ourselves, but by having these conversations, we're giving people permission to imagine that they could like things that they have always said, oh no, that can't possibly be okay. That's not okay. I think that I'm experiencing this. I'm doing things that I said I would never allow anybody to flog me. For instance, that's an easy one. No, you can't flog me. Or as a matter of fact, at this party we did needle play. So I had needles put in my back and on my breast, and then ribbons tied, connecting them. And it was a really beautiful sort of corset look on my front and back. And it wasn't until I met people who I watched enjoy having it done to them that I thought, oh, well, okay, go ahead and try it. And I tried it and I was like, oh, wow, that actually feels amazing. I'm giggling, I'm laughing through it. And we don't know what we like until we know that it's possible to like it. And there's kind of like not crowd immunity, or herd mentality. It is kind of a lemming thing. I didn't enjoy blowjobs until I met a woman who loved blowjobs. And I was like, well, maybe I'm just looking at it wrong. And she described to me what she did and her methodology and how she turned the guy. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me try it that way. A blowjob's a blowjob, but I had a different mentality because I met somebody who enjoyed it so much that I was willing to look at it again. And now it's my favorite thing in the whole wide world, right? Just like being flogged. I had no idea that I would enjoy, or electric play. Oh my God. Yes, absolutely electrocute me. I love it. But I didn't know I would. I was afraid of it for a year until I tried it. And I think that by having these conversations with virgins, vanillas,
yeah,
introduce them to so, Ella may never have imagined that she would want to play with a flogger, but I'm like laughing and beaming from ear to ear and saying how much fun I had when this guy did it. And she's like, oh, well, she's having fun. Maybe I could too. We don't know. And we don't know what it is that we will like until we try it. But the fact that we now know we have permission, we can give ourselves permission to try it without shame or with impunity. There is nothing wrong with seeking pleasure between consenting adults, right? We want to do it with people, and that requires the frank conversation from earlier.
Oh, so well said. So well said. So, maybe for a future podcast, can you guys share some of these things? I mean, maybe we'd have to do a live, but what's vlogging look like, for someone like myself, or some of these other things that you guys play with? I would love to know more. Yeah.
Let's have Jess tell us more about that.
Oh my. Yeah, I can definitely do that. And I actually think about too, how to utilize what you've got on hand, literally, like your hands or your mouth. Like, what are things that we can utilize that are just part of our normal extension of our bodies, of who we are, to elicit excitement and giggles. I have the same thing as Lisa. When I am super I erupt in giggles when I am having really fun sex that's really unexpected, and I love that. It's so joyful. But the utilizing the hand, like for me, like Lisa, like I want to hear all about the blowjob thing.
I do too. No, really, that's really what I want to know.
Yeah, like, so we, and that's the thing too, is that like, what are the things that we have on hand in us that can actually just you without having to go buy all these things, have all these experiences, like those are all sprinkles and toppings on the best Sunday ever that we can build. But also being able to work with the dynamics and the fundamentals and making those things be the full fucking Sunday, and all of it. So I would love in our in our next episode to hear, like, let's just deep dive into the big D and like talk about it with what's exciting about it, what turns us on about it, what are some techniques that have been super great.
I would love that.
What have men responded to, because also there's a lot of women who maybe they only have a couple partners in their whole life, or maybe they haven't been intimate with a man. We're using heteronormative terms, but like normative terms, but maybe it's they haven't had sex for years and years, and here they are, they're about to go on the dating scene. Oh shit, what do I do? And their only point of reference is porn. Everyone's set up for failure for that. So like to hear from from the three of us, what have been some fun stories or techniques or tools or tips, or what happens when you feel like you're gagging, how do you breathe through that one? I'm sure Lisa has a good technique, so there's just like these different things about like, all right, how can we like elevate the whole experience for us both, so it's not about service, like, oh, okay, I'm doing this thing because I know it turns him on, and it gets him off, and then we're gonna have sex, and then about it, and then he's satisfied, and then meanwhile I'm sitting here and I'm pissed because I haven't claimed what I want, or doing it because because it's the thing to do, just like all of that, like ick, gross, like like stepping into like, all right, like I'm gonna fucking own this thing, I'm gonna own that dick, it's gonna be the most amazing thing, and he's gonna be talking about it for the rest of his life. This is gonna be how, like, that is a great way to set up walking into something like that, and then just having some of the stuff like Lisa said. So I think that'd be super juicy.
Okay. And we can start with it. I wrote an essay about blowjobs, and we can start the episode with me reading that. It's short. It's just a few sentences, but yeah, we'll start.
I think also as another one, I've been writing a few notes along the way, but maybe we should talk about again, we talked about the farting, and we kind of chuckle about that because we've all been there and go, oh man, what how do you handle this? But maybe we really just talk about our pussies, right? And because again, let's just talk about them. Here's this is what happens, and this is what you can expect, and here's this certain sensitive spots, whatever. But maybe we can talk about an episode with that. I think that's really important as well.
Yeah. I was struck by something somebody said. This friend of mine said that I was sharing with her that one of my lovers had come to me and said that he felt that my pussy had an odd smell, something like that. And I was horrified. And, the worst that you can imagine happening, that was it. Like some guy telling you, yeah, you kind of stink. And I immediately called my boyfriend. I asked my husband, I called another lover, and I'm like, do I have a smelly pussy? I mean, is it bad? Do I have to do something about it? He's like, no. And then I realized I use essential oils, and some of them may not be attractive to somebody. And he says, I wouldn't have said anything because it doesn't really bother me. But the woman that we were with also noted it. And so I thought I'd say something to you. And all I could say was, wow, thank you so much. But I was expressing to her that I felt this shame. I felt because nobody has ever, of the people that I asked, ever experienced me in that way. And they loved me enough that they would tell me. And I was grateful that he was willing to tell me. That was lovely of him. And he wasn't saying, I don't want to be with you. He was saying, I do want to be with you. This was an issue. And she said to me, she says, I fucking pushed 2 humans out of that uterus. My pussy's dying. I have a dying uterus in my body. Of course, there are going to be sometimes smells and discharges and stuff like that. And it's about being human. right? So you work with it, you figure it out, and, you know, have a little, I don't know, not respect, but, you know, basically respect humanity for the fact that, you know, a woman, the pussy is a hard worker, right?
Yeah.
And that really comforted me, because it never occurred to me, I'm going through menopause. I'm not producing eggs anymore. There's got to be a shift of what's going on inside my body, because it's moving into a different phase, right? So I really loved her owning that, you know, yeah, sometimes we fart, sometimes we squirt, sometimes we feel pleasure, sometimes we feel pain, but, you know, that's what having that pussy is. And, you know, the mystery of it is our pussies are just inside out penises. So you know, basically all of the same equipment is there. It's just laid out in a different format, and ours is internal and theirs is external. So theirs is a little bit easier, quote unquote, to figure out. But we have more going on. And then, you know, then we have to also have some compassion for what the guys are going through too. You know, I'm with men who can't get erections.
Yeah, you know, that's another great topic.
You know, I have men who, you know, can't come.
Yeah.
And in these frank conversations that I'm having, they're like, yeah, I don't come very easily. And women often get offended that I never have an orgasm or I don't come. It doesn't bother me because I'm having a great time. And the truth is that if I think about it, I would say exactly the same thing. I may not have had an orgasm while we were having sex, but I had a fabulous, I really enjoyed myself. It's not about the end goal. It's about the ride, right?
Ah, so well said again.
I don't like the ride to stop. I like the ride. So let the ride go for as long as possible. Some men can only have one orgasm and stay hard for that. So the longer they can put off that orgasm, or if they can't orgasm, hallelujah. Right? So I think that there's
the best.
You're not the only ones who are going through head space stuff when we're in an intimate situation. And so I think those are all great topics to go over and discuss. I think that's great. The things that we're just about our partner.
Yeah, that's right. And again, how you work around it, because again, you have a very fulfilled sex life, right? And lots of great lovers. So I think just sharing your perspective, and again, just not making, you know, people wrong and working with it. There's other things to do. So I think that's great. I think the other thing, Jess, and you kind of touched on this, is you know, as we're maturing, right? As we're in different, women are in different phases of their lives, whether you have whether you're single, you know, with no children, with children, you know, mature, your children are grown, and now you're in your 50s and 60s. But I think it's really important, or a long-term relationship, and Lisa touched on this as well, is, you know, what if things get stale? How do we keep our bodies and how do we continue to feel sexy? I think that's something that would be great to speak about as well. Because if you haven't been intimate, or you don't have a connection, you know, with your long-term partner, let's say you've been married for many years, how do you re-spark that? How do you reignite that? And get a connection again. And I think that's really important. And body image, I mean, I'm not like I once was. I'm 53. I'm not like I once was. I put on a little bit of weight. You know, I'm not as fit as I once was. So, you know, how do you deal with that? And I'm sure you ladies, we can talk about it. And, you know, how do you still stay sexy? So.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can touch on that really quickly, and then we can more for me to like remember it for the episode. But I was just talking about it the other day, about our compliment assassins that we have in ourselves, that like, you know, if a man is with you and he's like, oh my God, your body is just so gorgeous and whoa, and you're like, yeah, you should have seen me 10 pounds ago or 10 years ago, or, you know, like we like we're like the hitman. We're like, no, we're not going to take these on because you don't know actually like who I am. And then that, you know, and like that piece of like the self-love and I've had major body insecurities throughout my life, and it's something that people are very surprised by, but I've been very conscientious of only allowing people to see what I wanted them to see. I was very conscientious about that, and how I dressed and what I shared and showed of myself was exactly what I wanted them to see. And then like in this state of like BDSM and like seeing women, and I'm about to walk in, I'm like super intimidated by who I'm going to see walking in there, and like still like, again, owning and wearing exactly what I want and having people see exactly what I want them to see. And then there's women of all shapes, all sizes, and they are wearing latex. They've got their rolls out. They've got like, you know, fishnets on. They've got like all the things, like everything that they've got going on, and they're just fucking owning it. And that was such an eye opener for me, that it's just like, the more that you just own who you are, you know, and like, and really be in that. And we go through the moments. I'm still having that like, I feel like my legs are getting chunkier, and you know, I'm with clients and they're telling me that I have the most gorgeous body that they've ever seen, and I'm like, well, obviously that's not true. Like, come on, we got Victoria's Secret models, like, come on, you know. But to them and the experience, and they're just like, you know, they're loving, they're just like, they're sending out like this loving energy of appreciation. And they're not like, I remember in college, the guys joking, like, put a flag over her and do it for your country, you know, like as a joke, you know. So like to have like, as you know, now like men and not having the lights off, you know, and like as I'm doing my body work, I've got a little bit of clothing on, but really not much. And it's like, it's for them to have the experience, but I enjoy it because I like to be close. I like to have the closer contact, body contact. Like that feels good for me and lights me up. So, you know, how to like, even just being accustomed just to say thank you and to shut out all the because that's the stuff that actually turns men off, and it turns us off. We turn ourselves off. Men are responding to us. If we are lit up like a Christmas tree, they're going to come. If we are shut down, they're not coming, literally. So when we're getting these compliments from others, you know, whatever it is, like, you know, drinking it in, like, if, you know, feels good to receive it. And so that's just what's been coming up for me, because our bodies are going to continue to change and shift and you know, morph and transform, especially once you've had babies. And you know, our bodies are meant to, you know, metamorphosize over and over and over again. And I've learned my body fluctuates, and there's some days it's going to be super curvy and some days it's going to be really thin, and some, you know, and it's like, okay, I can just ride with it and be with it, but I'm not hiding who I am anymore. So like, if I want to wear a shorter dress or a dress with a long slit in it, I'm going to do it. Even if like I'm insecure about my legs, you know, I'm still going to fucking rock it. And you know, that's insecurity, you know, I'll still walk with it, but I don't need to like stop what I'm doing, who I'm being, because of the insecurities, because that just keeps me stuck. So I move forward and I own it more and I play with it, you know, and the responses I've gone back far outweigh what I've put in my head, of how people are going to perceive me.
I think that's great. And I would love to touch, I think there's a whole podcast on that topic alone. Like I said, especially as we change throughout our lives, but I think it's really, really important, you know, how you show up, obviously, in bed, in my opinion. So yeah.
Lisa, you were going to say something?
No, I was just agreeing that there's more to talk about. There's, you know.
Oh, yes.
It's a broad and wide subject. I feel like there's a lot of reason to blame men for feeling shame, for, you know, being inconsiderate in bed, but I believe I'm learning that we're the ones who are self-sabotaging. We blame the guys because we're not taking our own accountability into it. This, you know, just like in the simple idea of, oh my God, he can't get me to come. Well, fuck it. It's my responsibility for me to come, not his. If he can't get me to come, it's because I'm not telling him how to make me come. And you were asking, you know, how do I know what to do on a blowjob? I tell the guy to masturbate for me. However,
yeah, absolutely.
that's how he wants to be touched.
Yeah.
So,
well, Jess had that great story.
To be honest, the majority of the time that before I even meet a guy, he has seen my pussy squirt, and I have seen him masturbate online in a video.
Yeah.
Zoom, but like FaceTime or something.
Yeah.
So I already know I've seen men who just want the tip of their heads tickled or the whole shaft grabbed and manipulated. And so I have to watch them do it. I had a guy, as a matter of fact, a guy that was an absolutely disrespectful fuck, if I'm honest, but he sent me a video of the kind of a blowjob he wanted. And I was like, okay. And I've tried it on every single man and they love it. So I learned my techniques because a guy sent me what it was that he wanted, and I used that technique and part of what it is that I'm doing. And every time I learn something new, it's kind of like, okay, but watching them masturbate is a key ingredient, right? So I can learn from him.
Yep.
But I can't expect him to learn from me if I'm not sharing anything. But I don't know that we've been taught that we can share, or that they'd be interested in hearing what our opinion is.
Yeah, there's so much good stuff out of this. Wow. And I think that goes on to that, because I guess Jess has some great, examples as well. But it's about masturbation. I think we should talk about masturbation sometime as well. Both from the male's perspective and the female's perspective. I think that's very, very powerful. So again, I was with a guy that, believe it or not, at 50 something, 50, he had never masturbated. You know who that is, Jess? I'm like,
sure do.
You sure do. I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? So, I mean, again, how can you, I don't know, no judgment, but wow, that's all I can say. I'm going to leave it at that. Wow.
Well, after our last session that we did of us ladies talking, I did bring into the conversation since then with my clients, like, so what is the stroke that you really enjoy? Because I was like having this in my back pocket as an ace. I'm like, why am I making this so much harder for myself? Like intuitively moving, and yes, I can, and I do that, but it's like so good to know. And do you know what? Some of them, there's a configuration I didn't even know was possible. There was one, it was like nipples needed to be like lightly stroked quickly. Wow. This is a forehand like job, literally. This isn't a two-hand, this is like a forehand. So there's like the nipples like grabbing really keep going. And then there's one hand stroking, but then there's like the cupping of the balls and pulling them up in like an angle, like angled direction. So having to do all of those things like with forehand, it was, and it wasn't like a quick 5-minute thing. This was like a 30-minute thing. So my questions are starting to become like, okay, so how are you fast? How long does it take? And then, what is the stroke? And, this is part of the joy and the fun. And I know for some people that might be like so Captain Obvious about things, but, this is live. There's a lot of things to think about. And, I've been sitting as we're talking and sharing, and it's like, okay, well, let's talk about, this and that. And in my head, I'm like, oh, but, there's therapists, there's researchers, there's doctors, there's all of these people that have like the data, and in my head, I'm like, but, we're the everyday women that are having the experiences, and we're able to share it and share from our hearts and from our laughter. And, again, breaking away these barriers, these, the ice, breaking the ice around these conversations and giving them the opportunity of where to look and where to go next. Like happy to be the guides, like Lisa said, being the Sherpas, getting people across the bridge to a whole new wonderland. But, just making that known, like I'm not a doctor, like I'm not a therapist. I am a coach, I am these other things, just like both of you, we have lots of gifts and talents. So, and I think that's kind of what makes it fun, is that we're also not bound by any kind of rules or, anything that we've agreed to, any commitments, any, all of that stuff. So,
I mean, we're just sharing our experiences. So they're not anything other than what we purport them to be, which is a real life experience, and sharing it so that I share it because I don't want to be alone on this journey. Sometimes I think, God, am I a freak? Well, no, because I can find 6 other people in 10 miles who have the same, likes and dislikes that I have, for instance, and just knowing that I'm only just beginning my exploration, that there are so many people who've come before me who've done this already, and it's exciting. But I may only be 3 steps ahead of Ella, but I'm 3 steps ahead of Ella. Mm-hmm. And if she wants to follow me on the journey, she can take the portions of my journey that fit for her, which might be how to enjoy having sex and use a vibrator during play. It doesn't have to be about having multiple lovers.
Yeah.
So it's my experience just comes in this playground, but it doesn't mean that there isn't equipment that we can use in a different playground. There are balls in football, soccer, baseball, and basketball, but they're 4 completely different games. Hockey is a whole nother sport altogether, right? So there's a way to take information from what it is that we're relaying and apply it to ourselves, or only take the confidence with which we're exploring our journeys and use that alone, right? Nobody has to listen to a single word we say or do anything we say, but the fact that we can proudly say, yeah, I had this horrifying experience in bed where my friend was going down on me and I farted. Holy crap, that's just awful, right? There's a woman out there who's going to be so grateful that she's not the only one that's ever happened to, because she's never willing, never going to admit, she's going to take that to her grave. There are only 2 people who know that happened. And he'll laugh about it over beers and say, I was fucking hot sex. She came so hard, she farted. And she's like, oh my God, I farted when I came and I'm so humiliated I couldn't see him again, right? Somebody needed to hear that. Yeah. I needed to hear it, to know that I didn't have to be
alone,
shamed and humiliated by it. That's what my body did. You don't want it, then you don't get my body, right? It is. Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I love the 3 of us have 3 completely different interests and backgrounds, and still we can have a really fun conversation about things that feel taboo, but we're all experiencing on some level.
Perfect. This was such a juicy conversation. I'm so grateful for you both joining and us all coming together and sharing these adventures and asking these questions and the stories and stepping into this life and sharing our worlds with others so that they can get glimpses and, like Lisa said, have a little bit of confidence. And Ella's already utilized that. I've already utilized it. So even it helps us even in how we show up in ourselves in these kinds of conversations and discussions, which furthers the argument that the more that we talk about it, the more there's waiting for us to explore and own and claim and celebrate. So thank you all so much for listening. Look forward to tuning in next time as we go into the big P and the big D and talking about the things that light us up and turn us on and help you feel really empowered and confident to be able to go into the bedroom and be like, I fucking got this. So have a great rest of your day. Look forward to connecting the next time.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. That was fun.
Want more? Head over to theplayfulpodcast.com for all the juicy things we have to offer. From there, you can join our community where you can get access to after hours, attend upcoming workshops and events, and even book a session. Bye for now.